Here's the brutal truth that most Milan fans don't want to hear. This weekend's clash against Bologna at San Siro might not be the easy 3 points everyone expects. The international break has finally ended, and AC Milan are preparing to welcome Bologna to the iconic San Siro stadium. But here's where it gets controversial. The visiting team might actually have the psychological advantage going into this encounter, following their disastrous season opener. The Rossoneri managed to steady the ship with a convincing 2-0 triumph over Lecce in their most recent outing. However, the 2-week international hiatus, combined with the frantic final days of the transfer window, has dramatically altered the landscape for both clubs in ways that could completely shift the balance of power. During his recent media briefing, manager Max Allegri delivered a statement that should make every Milan supporter sit up and take notice. He emphatically declared that Bologna can no longer be dismissed as mere underdogs. The tactician also expressed genuine satisfaction with his squad's recent training performances, while hinting that new arrival Adrien Rabiot could prove to be a game-changing addition. But here's the part most people miss. When a manager publicly praises the opposition this much, it often signals underlying concerns about his own team's readiness. Match details that matter. The showdown is scheduled for Sunday, September 13th, with kickoff set for 2045 Central European summertime at the legendary San Siro Stadium. Matteo Marcinaro will take charge of officiating duties, with Fabri serving as the video assistant referee. The injury crisis that could define everything. While Milan's injury report might appear manageable on paper with just 2 names listed, the reality presents a far more troubling picture for a squad that's already operating with reduced depth this campaign. The absence of these particular players could prove absolutely devastating, especially when we're talking about Arden Jashari and the irreplaceable Rafael Leao. The Portuguese winger's situation has taken a particularly concerning turn. Initially expected to return for this crucial fixture, Allegri has now revealed that the muscle injury Leao sustained involves complications that medical staff are still trying to fully understand. This setback means the dynamic attacker won't be available for the upcoming Udinese encounter either, with his potential return now pushed back to the highly anticipated showdown against Napoli. And this is the part most people miss. Losing your most creative outlet for multiple consecutive matches isn't just about missing goals. It's about completely reshaping your tactical approach. Despite these setbacks, Allegri still possesses a quality squad capable of delivering results. However, the international break has introduced numerous variables that could influence team selection, with several key players undertaking extensive travel and returning to training with varying levels of match fitness. The recent transfer additions add another layer of complexity to an already intricate selection puzzle. Current reports strongly suggest that Rabiot will be thrust directly into the starting lineup, marking an immediate integration that could either prove inspired or premature. Meanwhile, Allegri has indicated that Christopher Nkunku possesses approximately 30 minutes of match fitness, making him a viable option for a second-half impact role. Another fresh face, Koni de Winter, has emerged as a potential replacement for Strahinja Pavlovic in the defensive setup. Regarding the more predictable selections, Mike Maignan appears certain to retain his position between the posts, while the central defensive partnership of Fikayo Tomori and Matteo Gabbia looks set to continue their recent solid performances. In the midfield engine room, Luka Modric's experience and creativity make him an automatic selection, with Alexis Salemakers and Pervis Estupinan expected to provide width from the flanks. Santiago Gimenez has established himself as the undisputed first-choice striker, but the supporting cast remains a subject of intense debate. The decision between partnering him with Ruben Loftus-Cheek or Christian Pulisic could fundamentally alter Milan's attacking dynamics. Should Pulisic get the nod in the advanced role, it would likely result in Loftus-Cheek dropping deeper into midfield, potentially at the expense of Youssouf Fofana, while Samuel Ricci appears destined for another stint on the substitutes bench. Anticipated Milan starting formation: 3-5-2. Maignan, Tomori, Gabbia, De Winter. Sailmakers: Loftus-Cheek, Modric, Rabiot, Fofana, Estupiñán, Pulisic, Gimenez. The opposition analysis that changes everything. Most Milan supporters will have vivid and painful memories of Bologna, particularly after last season's Coppa Italia final defeat that still stings. But here's where it gets controversial. Dismissing this Bologna side based on past encounters could be Milan's biggest mistake of the early season. The Rossoblu have made a statement of intent by retaining Vincenzo Italiano as their head coach throughout the summer transfer period. This continuity suggests a long-term vision and stability that many clubs would envy, creating the foundation for sustained improvement. However, they've also made some significant personnel changes that could either strengthen or weaken their overall quality. The departures of Dan Ndoye to Nottingham Forest and Sam Buchema to Napoli represented substantial losses of proven Serie A quality. The critical question revolves around whether their replacement strategy has been executed effectively. The arrivals of Martin Vitek and Torbjorn Hegem for defensive reinforcement, alongside Jonathan Rowe's addition to the left flank, suggest a calculated approach to squad building. Based on early assessments, it appears the overall team quality hasn't suffered dramatically in these key positions. Examining their early season results reveals a perfectly balanced record that mirrors Milan's own start. 1 victory and 1 defeat from 2 outings. Their opening fixture resulted in a narrow 1-0 loss to Roma, followed by an equally tight 1-0 victory over Como. The low-scoring nature of both encounters might indicate a more cautious tactical approach, though it's premature to declare this a definitive pattern. Riccardo Orsolini opened his account for the campaign with the decisive goal against Como, courtesy of a fortunate deflection. For Bologna's overall success this season, Orsolini's consistent goal threat will prove absolutely crucial, particularly given his devastating performances against Milan in previous encounters. Their anticipated starting lineup possesses genuine quality throughout. The return of Federico Bernardeschi to Serie A following his North American adventure with Toronto FC adds an intriguing subplot to the encounter. It's worth noting that new signing Ciro Immobile and former Milan midfielder Tommaso Pobega will both miss the fixture due to injury concerns. Expected Bologna formation: 4-2-3-1. Skorupski, Zortea, Vidic, Hegem, Lykogiannis, Ferguson, Freuler, Orsolini, Bernardeschi, Cambiaghi, Castro. Historical context that reveals hidden truths. The historical record between these clubs spans an impressive 189 encounters, with Milan holding a significant advantage through 88 victories compared to Bologna's 54 wins. The remaining 44 matches ended in stalemates, creating a surprisingly competitive historical narrative despite Milan's clear statistical superiority. Their most recent meeting occurred in that infamous Coppa Italia final, where Bologna secured victory through a solitary goal that crushed Milan's trophy aspirations. Dan Ndoye's early second-half strike proved decisive as Milan failed to mount a successful comeback despite their desperate efforts. However, their previous league encounter told a completely different story, showcasing Milan's resilience and character. Despite falling behind to another Orsolini goal, the Rossoneri demonstrated their quality by turning the match around through a Gimenez brace and a crucial Pulisic contribution. Crucial statistics that could predict the future. San Siro has hosted 87 official meetings between these sides, yielding 51 Milan victories, 22 draws, and just 14 Bologna triumphs. A managerial head-to-head between Massimiliano Allegri and Vincenzo Italiano shows 8 previous encounters, with 6 victories for the Milan boss, 1 for his Bologna counterpart, and 1 draw. Remarkably, 5 of Allegri's 6 wins were achieved by the narrow 1-0 margin. Milan's historic 10th Scudetto triumph on May 6, 1979, was mathematically secured at San Siro following a goalless draw against these same Bologna opponents. A Santiago Gimenez's sole Serie A hat-trick performance came against Bologna on May 9th, during Milan's comprehensive 3-1 victory. Christian Pulisic stands alone among current Milan squad members in reaching double-digit goals during the 2025 calendar year, with 11 strikes to his name. Leao occupies second position with 7 goals, while Gimenez and Reinders share third place with 6 goals each. Ruben Loftus-Cheek ended a lengthy goal drought in the recent Lecce victory, scoring his 11th goal in Milan colours. His previous goal came against Fiorentina on March 30th, 2024, highlighting the significance of his recent strike. Adrien Rabiot ranks 21st among players most frequently utilized by Massimiliano Allegri, accumulating 126 appearances under the manager's guidance. Among active Serie A players in the 2025-26 campaign who have worked with the Livorno-born tactician, Rabiot sits 6th in the pecking order. Behind Quadrado, 234 appearances, Dybala, 228, Morata, 142, Locatelli, 137, and Rugani, 135. A Bologna's winless streak at San Siro against Milan stretches back to the 2015-16 season, when Emanuele Gaccarini's 82nd minute strike secured a memorable 1-0 victory. Since that triumph, the teams have contested 9 matches in Milan, producing 7 home victories and 2 draws. Riccardo Orsolini currently occupies 15th position on Bologna's all-time scoring charts with 74 goals, sitting just 2 goals behind Marino Pirani in 14th place and 3 goals shy of Claudio Bellucci in 13th position. Key performers who could steal the show for Milan. Santiago Gimenez arrives at this fixture with renewed confidence following his international goal-scoring exploits. This represents a pivotal moment in his Milan career as he seeks to establish himself as the undisputed focal point of Allegri's attacking system. The manager's recent public praise has provided a significant confidence boost, and now the Mexican striker must deliver a performance that justifies that faith. Luka Modric's influence in midfield cannot be overstated, particularly against a Bologna side renowned for their aggressive pressing game. The Croatian maestro's ability to remain composed under pressure while creating opportunities for teammates will prove absolutely vital. However, his effectiveness depends heavily on his teammates' movement and positioning to provide viable passing options. For the visitors, Riccardo Orsolini's threat was perfectly demonstrated in their previous San Siro encounter, where he showcased his clinical finishing ability when afforded time and space. The winner's predatory instincts mean he requires minimal opportunities to find the target, making him Bologna's most dangerous weapon in transition. Lewis Ferguson's box-to-box capabilities provide Bologna with the perfect blend of defensive solidity and attacking thrust from midfield. His warrior-like approach and tireless work rate will test Milan's midfield resilience, while his intelligent forward runs could exploit any defensive lapses. The controversial prediction that might shock you, considering both teams' identical early season records and the ongoing integration of new signings, this encounter promises to be far more competitive than many anticipate. The absence of the usual San Siro atmosphere, with Curva Sud remaining silent and Bologna supporters boycotting the fixture, could create an unexpectedly subdued environment that might favor the visiting team. However, despite these concerns and Bologna's obvious quality, Milan's superior individual talent and home advantage should prove decisive in a closely contested affair. But here's my controversial take. I believe Milan will edge this encounter. But it won't be pretty, and it certainly won't be convincing enough to silence the growing doubts about Allegri's tactical approach. Final score prediction: AC Milan 2-1 Bologna. What do you think? Are Milan being underestimated as potential title contenders, or is Bologna the perfect team to expose their early season vulnerabilities? Should Allegri be more concerned about his team's inconsistent performances? Or is patience the key to long-term success? Share your thoughts. This could be the match that defines both teams' seasons. And I'm curious to hear whether you agree with this assessment or think I'm completely wrong about how this fixture will unfold.